All right, let's go to XD. So this is the screen that you'll get to start a new document. You could call it new artboards, new prototype. And I'm just going to go ahead and choose web, the one that they have. It'll take you through all these little tours if you want. It'll take you through all those if you ever want to go through that. But I'm here, so we don't need the little bubbles. So you can see this is your artboard. It's put to dimensions. They have common web dimensions up. You can double click on this name up here and you could call it home page. You could do whatever you need to organize your artboards. You also know that this is your artboards because it says artboards here and it updated the name. And then you can have your artboards grow. So what's nice is you learned about above the fold. Does that ring a bell to anybody? Yes. So see this dotted line right here? This is showing you where that fold is. So anything you're designing for a desktop, it shows you what you would see on that screen right here. So if it was important that when someone opened up your homepage, that any call to action, any important information that you'd have would need to be, that first impression would be above that dotted line. And it's nice because that's not really part of your design. They just have that there for you. You can change it. You can drag things and change it, but it defaulted what that screen was. And if you put in a custom size for that screen, it'll default where that fold is. So that's kind of nice to be able to have that. So this is your artboards. You can copy artboards, you can add artboards, you can paste artboards, you can take this, a Command C, a Command V, will copy a new artboard right away. What's different a little bit in XD, or not different, but to pay attention to, is anytime you're selecting any of these tools on the left, things on the right will change for what you need to do. But it's not. Maybe there we go. I have to activate the tool. Let me show you what I mean. So here, this is homepage. It's the copy, it says homepage 1. And you can change everything that you need to change on this side of the program. We're going to just deal with one artboard for now. To move, I took the magnifying tool and I hit spacebar and I get the hand and I can drag this over. You can do view options, so you can view fit all in window, so you can kind of see where your artboards are at. Let's talk about these other tools. So you have something that's just a basic rectangle tool. So I'm going to click and draw a rectangle. Over here you have a lot of information about that. You can have a fill. I'm going to click the border off. I'm going to go ahead and fill it with a color. You can change the opacity here. Different things that you can play around with. You can add a shadow. You can add the dimensions. You can blur a background. Whoa. Nothing's happening there. It's just... So this blur stuff is probably a little bit more, you're going to see that more if you have other things happening than just like the blue fill. And there's something down here you can mark for export, which we can talk a little bit about later. I just want you to make sure that you see this little export button there. So this could be similar to what you would see as a navigation bar happening, make it smaller, and then say you wanted some type in there. You would click the type tool and you could say home, tab. You could copy this so it's the same, control copy, control paste, about. So you'd have different things that feel similar for a navigation bar. And as you can see how it's really telling of how far everything is apart and if it's lined up. You don't have, it kind of automatically just moves that stuff around for you because it's built to know that you're dealing with layout. That's pretty hard to see, so you can change the colors. Black's a little bit too hard. You could try white. You could eyedrop a color. Did that not? What am I doing? Here, we'll just, there we go. We'll eyedrop it. You can see that a little bit better. So just basics. You can draw circles. You can draw triangles. If you're drawing things that create like a lot of detail, you're going to draw those in Illustrator. You just have some basic shapes, some border options. This is just for more like layout pieces. Like, did you want to border around a picture? Do you need a certain type of button? It's not necessarily for creating artwork. So you would do that in Illustrator and bring it in. I'm going to go ahead and delete these now. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and copy that artboard again. So I need to make sure it's highlighted. I'm going to copy and paste it. If you notice, what's on the artboard came with it. So if you have to kind of think about which way you're designing. So if you want to get all your artboards set up first because you don't want all the same thing going on the pages, you kind of think about that when you're designing. You also, what's nice after, like an afterthought, is I can just select this text. I can do Command C for a copy, do a Command V for a paste. Hey, it's supposed to go in the same spot. Reuse objects.
How could you open the other artboards? Set up the others?
I just selected it and copied and pasted. But you have to make sure, just click on the name. You have to make sure you have these little blue lines. Let's see, I'm going to select this artboard again. Now I'm going to paste. There we go. Same way. So what's nice is if you create a navigation bar and you have the artboard, I'm going to copy this blue triangle or rectangle. I'm going to select the artboard so it has these blue dots showing, and I paste. It puts it in the same exact spot on the artboard, where if you're used to working in Illustrator and you copy and paste, it kind of just throws it somewhere in your window. I have the right-click options. Let's see if I can send this to the back so I can see my text. But I could also group it and then copy and paste the whole grouping, and it'll show up right about here. I want to show you a way. I feel like these shapes and typing text and having a pen tool is things that you guys should be familiar with working with other programs. What I do want to show you is how to make the workflow and using XD really great for what you need to do. So let's go back. You have your artboards, you have your rectangles. Let me find, oh, down here. So here you have, if I click this double layer, it shows you all of your layers. Has everything that's going on in there. It kind of shows you all your screens. If you click this little tiny box, no one can see it. It's like down here. It's called Assets if you hover over it, and it's called Link Assets. So what's really nice when you're building a site is you can add things to what I like to call it as a style guide. So it works similar to InDesign if you've used that at all. So this blue, if this is going to be a color that's part of what I'm doing, here where it says colors, there's a plus sign. I'm going to hit plus, and it automatically puts that color swatch into my styles. What's great about that, let's say later you're like, I don't like that blue, but you put that blue all over every single artboard on every single navigation bar and you want to change it. You can go in here and change the color. Say I want hot pink. Come on now. How come it never wants to work when you're doing things in front of people? Let's do edit. Here we go. Right click's going to be your friend. FF3376. Nope. Hot pink. We want hot pink. There we go. I put in the wrong code. Do you notice how it's changing all of it? So let me demonstrate how that would be different if I didn't add that to this assets panel. I could select this. I could go over to my fill. I could get that hot pink color. I could select this. I could go to the fill. I could eyedrop. I could go get that pink color. I could maybe select it all and change it all at once. But if I add this blue, I have this blue rectangle selected, and if I add the blue, later on in the design, you right click on this, you edit it, and it's good. It's called like a global change. You can change it live. What's nice in front of a client, or if you're working with a team, you can see what your whole design scheme would look like, because you may have this color multiple places on your pages, and you can see what's working better for you. So the same works with character styles, and that's going to be dealing with text. So I'm going to just click and let go, and I'm going to type this. Where did you go? Where did you go, my little type tool? What's in large here? It's so see-through. There you are, little text. I don't know why the fill is. Let's make it black. So I'm going to type, this is a headline. And I'm going to minimize my screen. It's not a very big headline. So this you can do with what you're used to. You can hold shift and resize this text. Over here you have things that you'd be used to seeing. You could change your font. Go ahead and choose Lotto. You could change to be all capitals, lowercase, title case. You have all these options over here. Centered, right justified, left justified. I'm going to take some of these off. Change the point size, make it a little bit bigger. And you have everything set that you want this to be. You could even change the color. You do have to have what you want changed selected. That is a good part of what you want to do. No. Why? Why? There. All right, so you have everything set. I don't necessarily think that you should have this bright purple header and this blue that looks like an old school Craigslist color, but for the demo, we're gonna go here. Under character styles, you'll see this, there's a plus sign there. You can add it here. And it tells you that it's Lotto 60 points. So something that you can do when you're dealing with web design and you have to be dealing with developers is you can rename this, and you might want to call it H1. Not 8 exclamation point, H1. And then you can have Lotto 60 points so that it's telling to you of what it is. So let's say I need to put another headline down here. We are the best. But let's pretend so it's saved automatically like it was just using whatever your last text was. So let's pretend that we put some paragraph text in here. I would never do this. I would go copy and paste lorem ipsum. You want it to look like real words, and I'll show you what that is in a little bit. And for that, you probably want 14 pixels. You do not want extra bold. Let's do a sans. Let's make this black. Whoa, 1535. I'm just playing around with this text so you guys can see it a little bit. So let's say this is what I wanted for my paragraph text. I could add another character style. I would rename this, and I would call this P. So that would be my paragraph text. So then if you were to type again, it automatically goes to what you last defaulted. So this, we needed to match this headline. All I do is go over here and click, and it changes it. If I need to type and say this is a paragraph, it looks like it defaulted to the Geneva, but if not, I would click this and I know that it's a paragraph. In the same way, oh, I don't like that this is bright blue. These look terrible. You can go over to this and edit it and say, yeah, I think we should make this black, and I actually think let's make this a little bit, let's make it different. Let's go ahead and make it a serif. And then it changes it on everything that you do on all the artboards. So it's important to start off when you start using XD that you really take advantage of adding your colors in, adding your character styles, and we're going to talk about components. Has anyone used symbols before in anything that they've designed? So a lot of times you might have something reoccurring where you're copying and pasting and copying and pasting and copying and pasting. In programs, when you do that, it's creating a new file for everything that you're copying and pasting. If you use a symbol, it's just going back to that root file. So it's just a single image or single idea that it's going back to. And so it makes the program run quicker. Also, when you're doing web design, you have things based off certain standards. All your buttons, you need to be the same height. Everything you're having needs to be very similar. So you're creating the work one time. So if we needed to create a button that said join now, let's go over here and see if we can give. So you have some options. You have these little things to curve it if you want it rounded. So I just went over here and it gave me different curve options. Very tiny. You could just manually put in how much you want each side curved. But for this, I just think we will do all of it together. So I would create a curved button. I'm going to go ahead and fill it. Take that border off. And this is where you can add a component. So here I would add a component. And it says goodbye symbol. So they used to be called symbols. Now they're calling it components. Introduce flexible style, resize, and layout overrides with components. So what that means is you might have this button multiple times. I want to drag out another button. But sometimes you want the button to be able to change. And so it's not going to change it permanently over in your assets, but it started at that base for you. But what can happen is, again, you can edit this. And you can say, let's make it the same color as the header. And you can change those buttons quickly. You can add text. Call now. You can have a button text style. So if you know that your buttons are going to be all a solid color, where you need white over it, you can then add this. Sorry, you can add this to the character style. You can edit this. You can call it button. Oh, not edit it. Sorry, rename.
Where's the controlling the size of the type?
So anything that you have a control has to be highlighted, and then everything that you need should show up here. So you can notice the options are a lot less than in Illustrator. You don't have as many tools, you don't have as many windows, because you're just really working with layout types of things. So this is all you have to master, is what these things do and the little bit that you have over here. There is something that's really fun with this program that's a little bit magical. So if you think about, let's think about, you have an About Us, not an About Us, sorry, you have like a Meet the Team kind of page where you're putting everyone that works there. And so this could represent like a little image. I'll just fill that in with some gray. And you could have the name, click, name of the person. Not sure if that actually, we'll just do that name. And I'm gonna click and drag and description. This, I don't know why this is defaulting to white. It's very maddening because nobody really wants to deal with white text, right? Description of the person. So say this was a little bit of a layout that you had going on. Let's go ahead and make that the headline. And you have these parts. There's this thing called repeat grid, and you could click it, and I'm just gonna drag this out and look what happens. It repeats it for me automatically. I can go ahead and alter the space between some of these things, and it does it for all of them at once. Later on, we'll get into, you can take a grouping of images, drop it in this one square, and all the images will propagate into each one of the correct squares. You can take a text document and drop it onto the name. The next name will automatically fill in to the proper ways. So we're not going to be doing that today or soon. I just want to let you know some of the capabilities of what can happen with this repeat grid, which is nice. And then you can move it, if it's not, you can ungroup the grid so it's all separate, but you can keep it together so then it acts like a unit for what's happening. So I think that's pretty much all the things that I wanted to be able to show you on kind of the basics of what's happening with XD. And so let's go to Canvas and look at what this assignment is going to happen, and let's talk about what wireframes are. So where it says September 10 demo, I'm going to upload this video to YouTube, and I'll go ahead and load it once it's published. It'll be here for you to rewatch again. I have this, it's called Designing Adobe XD. Adobe puts this on. They put on lessons. They put on tons of online live workshops, but they talk about wireframing. This is something that I want you to be able to watch, before we come back to next class. And let's just look up an example of a wireframe. So this is what you would consider to be a wireframe. There is some telling of what the site would look like, but there's no text isn't decided upon yet, color isn't decided upon yet, images aren't decided upon yet. You could put in little icons, but these aren't considered to be the final icons for the design. It's just a quick way to get the layout done, because a lot of times you need to figure out the space of the site. What's going where? You're usually making the site for someone else. You need to make sure that what they're talking about is the same way that you're talking about. So doing this wireframe is a lot faster than finding the images and designing all of the stuff. And then they're like, no, we want this on that page, that on that page. It's a lot easier to change these. This, you can tell, represents a person. This has the little quotes. These aren't really the real logos. It's just stuff that you would put in to make it look like it's real. So we're going to do a little exercise and create wireframes on XD. But I'm going to have you go backwards just so that you are creating things close to the right dimensions of how things are designed on the web. So I want you to try to, there's going to be a link here. And this is a template that you can purchase on it's called Without Code. It's what we're going to be using to build websites later. And you can click on this little desktop version. And you can see that this is pretty much made, right? But I want you to be able to go backwards. I want you to create a wireframe of this. And if it feels like that's really easy, like I must be doing something wrong. Nope, we're just copying shapes and words and putting them in a layout. So we would go to XD. I'm going to go ahead and close. I'm going to open up a new one. And I'm going to go back to the assignment. And it says that you're going to be creating wireframes for the desktop and for the mobile for each of these pages. So the desktop is 1280 by 800 pixels. So in XD, you can do something that's custom. Right here, it lets you put that in. 1280, does anyone remember the second number? 800. And I'm going to click on that, double click once they're in, and you're going to get the size of what you need. So let's go back to the assignment. It talks about, you'll have a total of 10 artboards, 5 for the desktop and 5 for the mobile. One, that says but it should say 1 artboard per page. So when I say 1 artboard per page, here they have this menu. Ironically, this is called a hamburger menu. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that this is a hamburger site. Anytime you see these 3 lines, it's just a hamburger menu. I don't know who made it up. I think it's supposed to be like the bun, the meat, and the cheese. So here, there is not a traditional menu navigation where the words are across the top. They have this hamburger menu for their option. I don't need you to worry about creating a wireframe for this. You're just going to be putting the lines. If you click up here, you'll notice it shows the phone. And it looks a little bit different. You'll notice that these images fill up this whole space of the phone, where on the desktop version, these images are 4 across. So when you're making a mobile site, you don't just shrink everything smaller. You're actually trying to keep everything the same size and just rearranging. The size of stuff doesn't change too much. You would be surprised. The point size of text that's on your desktop screen and the point size of text that you read on your phone doesn't change that much. It just changes, instead of a long paragraph that's wide, it's just, a vertical paragraph at that point. So these are all things I want you to be able to start paying attention to. But what you do need to know about, these pages is you'll have a wireframe for the home. You'll have a wireframe for the About Us. You'll have a wireframe for Menu, Private Events, and Contacts. So you'll make wireframes for all of these pages for the desktop and the mobile version. We're not going to deal with the tablet version at this point. So let's go into XD and figure out how we would do some of these things. So let's go back to home. So you can see that, this is considered the fold. What's really hard is your monitors are ginormous. And so I'm fortunate that the projection from this monitor to that projector kind of like lessens the pixels, because that projector can't handle how big this screen runs. So it'll look somewhat different on yours. When you are designing, you probably want to squeeze your window in a little bit so you can kind of tell, where that fold changes. Some of it may look like this is what, see, I'm scrolling, so I feel like this would be right below the fold. So you want to make it so that, your fold is right there. Whatever you see is kind of the edge of that page with your screen similar, so that it's not so big. So it's a little bit of a disadvantage to design on these really large screens. Most people aren't looking at your site on these really large screens anyways, and then it just makes things a little bit too wide. So let's go over here, and you can tell that there is a rectangle for, well, let's prep. So let's figure out how these artboards are going to work. So it looks like that I'm going to need this header to be on everything. That's not changing. So on my first artboard, before I copy any more artboards over, I might as well just make that header, because remember how we copied and pasted and then it went over with the artboard? So we're just going to create that header. So let's get a rectangle here. What's hard is that rectangle was white, correct? Do you guys remember? It was. So we don't you still want to have that rectangle in there. The fill with white, let's take off the border. You can't necessarily see it, I understand that, so it's a little bit, I don't know what I selected here. Go away. And there is something, let's find that there's a magic button. I'm pretty sure it's, maybe I'm thinking of a different program. There should be a magic button where you can just click it and it automatically goes to the edges. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Does anyone know how that works? I'm brain farting on that. I'll get back to it. Anyways, we can just do it by hand. We'll pull this out. And then let's make a little, we can just make a little circle. It has that scallop detail. I'm going to do a circle and hold shift. We can keep these borders on for now just so I can see what I'm doing. And you can by hand center it. So you do have the align options up here, but you can see when I'm moving it around, it's kind of helping me out for what I need to do. I can hold these two together and I can even join them so they kind of turn into one. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to bring this up a little bit more. Oops, not that. Just the circle. And now I have this header. And I'm going to have something that would represent a logo there. So you can kind of decide what you want to be part of how we're going to represent things. You could find an icon if you wanted to that existed. So you could be, if the company already had a logo, you could put, you know, like a hamburger in there. Or you could just put some sort of shape. A triangle would work to represent that there's a logo in there. You could do some words. You could write the word logo. That's also appropriate. Or you would just have, that's going to really tell the people that that's a logo there. Now the word logo wouldn't stay, obviously. We're just wireframing. We're just working on a grayscale of layouts. Here you would take 3 rectangles and you would take your little hamburger menu. It's pink in the design, but everything we do, we're going to keep that grayscale. And then I can, just like in Illustrator, you can shift command and copy and pull something out. Like it makes a duplicate of it. And I can go ahead and group these together. Let's right click, group. And I can keep this. Ooh, I made an extra one. Keep this here. And then I know that I don't need this anymore. I know that I need a button. And then I also noticed that these are a little bit thinner. So maybe I want to make all of these a little bit thinner. And I don't want, so one easy way is to take that border off of all of them. So what happens then is now, I don't know, I kind of have to go through and make a new copy. Oops. To make it smaller. Let's do Command C, Command V. If you do Command C, Command V, it just pastes it right on top. And that probably still is a little bit thick, so maybe you would just take the line tool and draw a line to get it the same thinness. And then you just have the border color. You can copy and paste that. When I hold Shift, and if I copy and paste and hold Shift, it keeps it in that straight line. Then I can select all three, and then I can group it. I can hold down spacebar to move my, artboard around. I get that hand if I do the spacebar. I can hold Option to minimize with the magnifying glass. So I want to make sure that I'm putting this in the right spot. So we're going to go ahead and put that there. And then we need a button. So the button was a rectangle. And we'll fill that in with some version of, maybe we make all our buttons black, take off the border. I'm not a big fan of borders. I don't know why it defaults having that border there. Let's go back to check our work. Says book a table. I'm fine with you just typing in book a table. That's fine. You don't have to kind of rethink the text here. It's definitely not that large of text. I'm going to hold Shift. And I'm probably going to make that white. You could even keep, because it's white, you could keep this outline on it just so people know that it is there. So I have the components of the header. Next is that one really large image. And it's going, I'm going to arrange it to the back. Send to back. There we go, because that logo goes over it. I'm going to fill it with probably a light gray. And then one thing that's good to show an image is we can create it right now, is those little mountains. Have you guys seen like the little mountains that make an image symbol? So we could do a couple of things. Embed image symbol. No, that's embed code. Let's just try image symbol. Where's my little mountains?
Going to be icon.
Yeah, we'll try icon. There we go. I mean, these are mountains. These aren't the actual, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Let's see. Crazy. I do know what I'm talking about. I promise. You search image icon and it worked?
Yeah.
I'm being too fancy, guys. Don't be as fancy as me. Thank you. So this is on free pick. So everyone, let's do this together. So go on Google, search image icon. What's nice about some different things that happen in, actually, I'm changing my mind. Don't do that. I have a better way. We're going to go advanced. We're just going to teach you everything today, and then we won't have to come back to class ever again. Does that work? I want you to go to XD, and I want you to go to File, and I want you to go to Get UI Kits. And let's go to something called wireframes. We can build a lot of this stuff from scratch, but there is a lot of stuff that is already built for you. So here you can go to wireframes. It's taking me to a Behance site, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to download Kit. So I want you to do the same thing.
What was it again?
So you go to File in XD, and then you go to Get UI Kits, and we're going to do the wireframe kits. And then just save it to the desktop. once you go to the desktop, you're going to open up, right now we're going to open up the web one. And it opens up as a separate file. And you get so much stuff, right? Look at all that. So let's just look for UI elements, which stands for, can be a little overwhelming. All I really want out of here is we know how to build buttons. You can build that yourself. Here we go. Yep. So when you go to the UI kits, you should get this. Behance, are you here? You click download kits. And when they might have gone straight to your download folder. You can search for Wired up here to see where they went. Does everyone have this kit open?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to have you try to get that open, and then we'll find this little image. So what's nice about this is it gives you kind of that person icon. If you explore around, there's like a video icon. There's so many different things that you can use. Social media. They have different like layouts you can use. I know at some point they're going to have, a gallery. This has a little bit of a gallery. You could, copy and paste some of the stuff, or you could draw your own. So you have to find a balance of what's faster for you. The way that this particular embed image icon is, we could probably have, draw that ourselves, but I'm going to show you both ways to make that happen. Is everyone here now? Yeah. Somewhere where they can find. Okay, you can't download it? Did you check your desktop?
Yeah.
Did you check your download folder? Who else can't download the kit? Okay. Resume this. I'm going to click on this mountain. I'm going to right click and I'm going to, it's not group. Let's see. Oh, it's a whole thing. Let's see if I can click in there and get it. That's all right. We're going to just go ahead and copy this. Let's copy this whole. I double clicked into it. So you'll notice this is moving around. The rectangle, if you've used InDesign, it kind of is like placing that image inside of that rectangle. Let's go back to our original file. And I'm just going to paste and see what happens. I'm right-clicking and pasting. So it gives me this. If I rearrange this around, it's resizing the mountain pretty well. Do you see that? So I can be like, oh yeah, I totally wanted my wireframes to be a blue color scheme. That's what I wanted. And then you use this and you make your wireframes a blue color scheme. You can add this to the components panel. So then you have this thing called image. And then you want to use it again. You can use it again. But I just remembered something. Sorry, guys. We wanted to copy and paste those artboards once we had these navigations together, right? So we have to remember to not get too far. So I'm going to do this, highlight my artboard. I'm going to Command C, Command Paste, Command Paste, Command Paste. How many do we need? 5. So now the work is done. I'm going to call this home. I know one was about, and you'll go through and relabel menu in order. So the reason I backtracked is because if I copied and pasted with all that imagery stuff on it, it would be on every single artboard. So you kind of have to remember what's going to work best for you. Are you best off just creating all your artboards and copying and pasting? the navigation over since it will copy and paste right in that same place. So some things to work about. So now that I've made this image thing a component, I can literally just drag this out. I can arrange it and put it to the back and just resize it to what I need. So that's one way to get that mountain image working. I wonder if I can edit this. Can I change the color? Nope, I can just add a border. Since it is acting like an image, not a SVG, I can't change it. So what if I like, oh, that's way too light. I don't want to use blue. I don't want to find another wireframe. You could. This is pretty easy, right? It's a triangle. I could just kind of use this as a guide. I like the dimensions of it. It's another triangle. And it's a circle. So I'm going to hold shift for this one to make sure that I get an actual circle. A little bit smaller. I can hold shift, I can select all of these, take off the border, make sure it's filled white. Take off the border, there we go. I can, don't group it. Let's see, I'm gonna move this up here so you can see that the border goes off. I can go ahead and group this together, and now I can add this as a component. So now I have my own image icon. So I'm gonna delete this because I wanna stay with my grayscale theme. I can arrange, send this to the back, take off this border, fill here. Once you have this fill color down for your images too, you can make this a component and you can call it image holder. And then you can pull out this image icon. Hey, no. Well, I'll just pull it out there and then drag it on the top. And then you would have it for that image because we created, you know, that component, that symbol to reuse. So now what do I do? So I have that above the fold. I know I'm giving you guys a lot. It's gonna work out. I have this above the fold thing going on. I need to put some text on there. I'm gonna trust that you guys can figure out how to put some text on there. What's awesome is I already have this button I can add as a component. And I already have this button text that I can add as a character style. So I know that there's a button here. Don't put it right on top. It wants to delete it. Put it below and then move it up. I can put my button there. I can add the text on top. I can add the headlines. And you don't need to make it this fancy font. It's going to be plain. This says burgers and shakes. I'm fine for you writing burgers and shakes. Burgers and shakes. And then you're going to go ahead and, you know, create that headline one that was happening. You don't need to worry again about the font. It doesn't need to be that fancy, but I am going to make a character style because for every headline, I already decided the size. I just want to be able to just click on that for all the things. You're going to have a little bit more paragraph text here. You can copy and paste exactly what the text is. I'm fine with that. Put up your button, and then you would have the component of this. Just make sure best meal is bigger than burgers and shakes. That's the most important. But now the page grew. So you need to make sure that you're clicking on this name so you get the artboard selected and it's going to grow. So you don't have to try to shove all your content in that one tiny spot. The page is going to grow with you. So next what you're going to do is you're going to go down. You have a clock. You're going to type this text. You can tell that this is bolder, so you can make this bold, but you're still going to keep it grayscale. You can do a small icon for the same icon over and over for the image, or that icon, sorry, you can look over here and see if there's anything happening that you want to take that could represent an image for you. So you can even use the same little mountain placement too as well. You could potentially even, let's see what happens if we, yep, you can't save that. Is there an icon? Image icon, let's see. Icon. Not really. That'd be funny though. You can, like I said, use the little circle, something. You could write the word icon and then you could write the text, put the line, write the text, put the line. So now it's just paying attention to detail. You're going to kind of work through all the way down, all these components. This will be the little mountains with words over it, all the way down. Once you have a lot of this stuff set up, it's quick. You throw out a button. You could even probably group these two things together. Let's say, and you could just call this button to be quick. It doesn't have to, or button text, because then if you group these two things together, and you add a component, every time you pull that button out of that panel, it's already just ready to go. And because the whole point of wireframes is to be fast. So I'm going to delete this, and instead I'm going to use this button, and it already says button text. So every time there's a button, I have that component ready to go, and I'm just throwing my buttons on the page and doing it. Every time I want to type a headline, I have this here, and I just click that, and it turns into the size of the headline. Yeah. So you have to select the name of the page, of the artboard. That's the only way to get these blue dots to work, and then you literally just drag it. So all of your pages might be different heights. The content on the page is going to drive how big that artboard is. Not every web page is going to be the same. So I think that's enough for that. Let's just figure out how to get the mobile artboard in here as well. So I'm going to go back to, I'm going to select this so that I have my, or go down here. Sorry, you have your artboard options. So I'm just going to copy and paste this one over, but I want to change, why? Hang on. I overloaded my own self. There's usually something over on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That allows me to pick the phone. Let's delete this one.
I just had a quick question. Where are you pulling the content from?
We are getting it from, go on Canvas, and it's in the assignment. Yeah. Where's my magic button? So let's go back to see what size we need our on Canvas. Our wireframes for our mobile needs to be 375 by 812. So if I click on the name of the artboard, Command C, Command V to copy and paste it, I can change the dimensions over here by hand, 375 by 812. It turns into what I need. And delete the stuff out of here. And you can move this if you want this art, like if you want your mobile to be a little bit further away, it's up to you. So this will be mobile home. And you can see it has that fold line for you. And then you would have 5 of those. Control copy, control paste, control paste, control paste. And you'd have this, they'd have the same names, mobile about, mobile menu, mobile contact, all of those same things. And then what's going to happen is you're going to copy and paste a lot of what you have over here and just resize it a tiny bit. So a lot of it's not going to change. Your same button component, if you notice, that size is going to work for mobile. I didn't have to make a new button just because I was on a new device. It's just going to be placed in a different spot. So a lot of your same assets that you have are going to be the same. Your headline is probably going to be the same. Sometimes one of the words just might come below it. But you're just going to be copying the mobile version of this. So this shows you what it looks like in a phone. So I did it for, this specific size. I gave you the dimensions for that. So you have the same icon, it's just going to move spots. You'll have the same text, so you're going to be copying and pasting a lot through. You're going to fly through this a little bit more. If you want to find some of these fun icons, I will show you this. Do you guys know about the Noun Project? Noun Project. You do have to sign in, but the idea was to get a symbol for everything that existed. So you could type in hamburger, and you see hamburger menus or other icons. The only thing when you're using icons that you ask is you kind of need them to all be from the same set. And what I mean by that is you can't have an icon that's all filled in and an icon that's outlined or an icon that looks hand-drawn. They all need to look like they were designed together on purpose. So sometimes you can say, see this, the whole set on here somewhere. There's 63 collections here, so it's a collection. So searching collections is good. So this food, oh, well, that's not good. So this collection is different because they made just hamburgers as a collection. Let me try to get to my point. Independent thin. Why in the world? Come on, people. Not you people. Internet people. Here we go. This is what I mean. These were all drawn to be a set. You could use all these same icons on the same page because so if you're using icons from different collections, you have to make sure the line weight looks right and all of that looks the same. So that's why in wireframing, using some of these icons gets hard because then you're wasting your time looking for the icons and doing all those things. Instead, when you can just throw in, the outline of those mountains or one symbol that represents every single icon that you're going to use over and over again. You can be a little bit creative of what icon you want that to be or what symbol you want that to be. But you're going to, again, wireframes, you want to think about speed. So if you want to take the time to find icons that look like this, draw icons that look like this, you can. Or you can just make this a circle, a circle, a circle. So that you are creating wireframes quickly. You could write icon in it so someone knew that that circle represented an icon. You just need to give visual cues so that when someone's looking at the layout, they know what it is quickly. So key points, Because this is basically all, what you're going to be doing for the week is just figuring out this XD stuff, figuring out how to copy that one web page into a wireframe. Key points is keep it grayscale, so we don't need to have color. You can copy and paste the exact text from this wireframe. You already will have it. If you were creating a wireframe from scratch, you would write maybe things like, this is a headline, this is a subhead for big headlines and subheads, and you would be pasting lorem ipsum, which is like the fake Latin text, because you'd want it to look like words. You can just take the text straight from this web page, because then you can even get a better idea if you're copying the scale of it well. I would like you to make sure that you're adding your characters and your components, and you can even add, the 4 versions of gray that you want to use to your color. So if we know that this is this gray right here, I want to use that for every image, I can just add that color and that's going to be there. So I can create a rectangle and select that color each time instead of having to change the fill. You want to make sure that you are getting all the components of the page and that each page is going to grow with the content. Some things to think about. The footer on each thing is going to be the same. So once you have that designed, you copy it, you select the next artboard, you paste it, it's going to paste it in the same place. So it's easy to have all that stuff, duplicated. What you design on the desktop isn't going to change much size on the mobile. It's just going to be rearranged a little bit. So that's something to think about. And anything else, just don't overthink it too much. I know I threw a lot at you today.